My name's Traci Johnson. I am a member of Nashua Baptist Church in Nashua, New Hampshire. And my day job is as an occupational therapist working in the school system, primarily with high schoolers, but I've worked in all ages. And my passion is individuals with disabilities and just the amazing things that they can bring to any table. We have a really packed agenda, so I'm going to try to talk as fast as I can. There is a listening guide that was sent out earlier, and at the bottom of the listening guide, there's some picture schedules. So, and there at the end of this, there is a resource frame. So you will end up with lots of resources by the end. But our goal is to go through kind of how do we prepare our hearts, how do we prepare our instructions. So in the essence of preparing our hearts, when we're doing Vacation Bible School, the goal is it doesn't matter what program you're teaching, what curriculum, you're teaching the Bible. And as long as you're teaching the Bible, it doesn't matter the curriculum. And every publisher of a curriculum will tell you that. But when we are talking about individuals with disabilities, we want to understand that they are part of the community in which we live. And in 1 Corinthians, verse 12, I've taken out a couple of the verses just to kind of synthesize it. But for just as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, so it is with Christ. Verse 14 and 15, for the body does not consist of one member, but of many. If the foot should say, because I'm not a hand, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less a part of the body. Verse 18, but as it is, God arranged the members in the body, each one of them as he chose. Verse 24 to 25, God has so composed the body, giving greater honor to the part that lacked it. That there may be no division in the body, but that the members may have the same care for one another. I like that idea that we all need each other. I need people with disabilities. I need people without disabilities. I need people who think in the left brain. I need people who think right brain. I need males. I need females. I need a whole bunch of people to help make decisions and make our church rich. And so I think it's important that we focus in. This actually, I'm going to point out, if you'll notice over on the top left-hand corner of this frame, there's a little arrow that says notes. And anytime you see that arrow, it indicates that this is referenced in your note guide. And so that you can take some information or write down some information there. It does not mean you have to. I just wanted you to kind of understand. So some of the things that we need to kind of think about, and if you feel like sharing them, you can, but I just want you to think about what are the parts of VBS that could create friction with our friends with disabilities? What are the things that we do that you think, oh man, maybe that would be really tough with somebody with a disability? Or, whoa, the people that I know with a disability probably wouldn't like it if we did that. Just write down a quick list to yourself of some of those things. If you want to share them in the chat, that's fine. But those are the things that we need to kind of keep on our forefront, on kind of in the frame. And every church is different. So I couldn't just say, these are the things that are going to annoy people. What are the barriers that kids with a disability might encounter at the VBS? So is it structural? Is it personal? Are there personalities that might not be as welcoming or be a little bit more difficult to deal with? Is it the fact that you have stairs coming in and out of your facility, or that you don't have a bathroom? What are the things that you can think about? Because again, being aware is half the battle. If you can just become aware of what some of these things are. This one is really a very personal question, and I encourage you to spend some time after this really thinking about this. What are my fears about including somebody with disabilities? What are my abilities? What skills do I bring to the table that others might not? What are my limitations? What are the things that I just know I can't do right now, or I think I can't do? And what's my knowledge base? Do I have an Aunt Susan that I used to care for? Do I have experiences babysitting a young child with a disability? Do I not have any experience at all and I don't even know what to say to somebody with a disability? Really be honest with yourself, because that's going to be the catalyst that's going to keep you going as you get into your VBS and including everybody. So make sure you pay attention to those. When we're talking about including people with a disability, and I will also talk about families that are affected by disability, because we could get a young person in with a disability, but we also might get a sibling. And that sibling doesn't have a visible disability, but they are definitely impacted by the disability of their sibling. And so we need to kind of honor that as well. We also have to remember that there are visible disabilities and there are invisible disabilities. There are things like being in a wheelchair, being blind, or being deaf, or things that you can see. And then there's other disabilities like having an intellectual disability or a learning disability that you might not see right away. And so we need to remember that the category of disability is very broad. So what does it mean, or what does it look like to be fully involved in your church, to fully belong? We want to really kind of narrow down to 3 points. That to fully belong, we need to have full access to fellowship, full access to the people of the church. And so what barriers might there be to that full access? Would there be a physical barrier? Is your fellowship hall down a set of stairs and there's not an elevator? Does your church meet in the summer at a park that doesn't have any amplification? So somebody with a hearing disability would have a hard time hearing a service. We want to look at those kinds of physical barriers. We also want to look at our social barriers, and that's really where we say, does this individual have the social skills to interact in a way that we know how to interact, or maybe they're on the autism spectrum and they don't interact the way we would anticipate individual interacting, and we don't know how to deal with it? Or are there some people in our church that are sort of stuck in their ways and they don't have the capacity to alter the way that they interact with people? So what are some of our social barriers? What does full access to worship look like? So socializing with people is one thing, but worshiping and being in the church with everyone, what does that look like? What are the sensory barriers? Is your church loud? Does the music go off and on? Are there lights? Are the lights fluorescent? Do they make a hum? Is there a scent-free area? Is there some people where I know in our church we have a couple of people who are extremely sensitive to smells. And so if you put on your church cologne as you go to church on Sunday, you really annoy that person. And so some churches have an area that's really a scent-free zone for people. So there's lots of things when we're talking about sensory. Is there a place that somebody can kind of pace back and forth, and if they need to be able to move while they're listening? And is there social acceptance for those kinds of special accommodations, turning the lights up, turning the volume down, allowing a place to pace, allowing a scent-free zone, those kinds of things? And then we want everyone to have full access to God's word. So do we have Bibles available in large print for those who may not have the vision to be able to see a small print Bible? Do we have access to audio recordings of some of the songs so that people who can't read or might not be able to see the screen can practice and know the songs so that they can participate in the singing? And so that kind of accommodation can help a lot of people. It helps people with cognitive issues, and it helps people with sensory issues. So we want to make sure that when we are talking about a individual fully belonging to a church, it's really very broad and encompasses quite a bit. So I am going to stop my sharing right now, and we are going to offer some more prizes just as a kind of a little break, and we will get back to more of the workshop after that.
Right. So the next set of questions have to do with special needs. So everybody's back in. So even if you answered the last question, I want to invite everybody back in to answer these questions. And these, I think, are pretty eye-opening statistics about special needs in the church. So the first question is this, and we're giving away a whirligig. It's a little floating
decoration
thing. Yeah, decoration. It's kind of fun. All right, so the question is this: what percentage of kids in this public school has a special need? What percentage of kids in a public school have a special need?
Remember to use your chat function.
Yep.
Okay. Oh my, we have Erica with 10, Rachel 11, Fiston with 10, Kathy with 12.
Right. The answer is, anybody else? We've got a few more people out there. If you want, as Tracy says, if you want to win, you got to put yourself out there.
You can't win if you don't guess.
Yep. Okay. And the answer for this one is 15%. So
wow, that would be Kathy.
Kathy. Okay.
Kathy Keys.
All right, Kathy. All right. The next one is this. And these are those headscarves for the kids.
Do-rag.
There you go. Bandanas. Bandanas, I think they're called. All right. They're a set of 5. The question is this: what percentage of parents of special needs individuals say they have left church because their child was not included or welcomed?
This is such a sad statistic.
It is.
It makes my heart break. Type your answers. Oh, 35, 100. Rachel, 50.
All right. Okay. And the answer is 32%.
32% of parents say they left the church because they weren't welcomed. We got to do better than that.
Yeah. So who's the winner?
Oh, sorry. That would be, Kathy guessed again. So hold on.
Well, that's all right. I told them they can guess. Oh, Kathy has to sit out. Yeah, she has to sit out for this one. Yeah.
Right. Because she's the one that's without going over.
Yeah.
25.
So who was
the rest of them are all over.
So who did you say?
Kathy Keys.
Okay. All right, Kathy, you can't guess the next few. At least the next 2 anyway. All right, here's another one. All right. What percentage of churches have no program, strategy, or ministry for persons with special needs or disabilities? And I'm giving away some flags.
Okay, Erica, 80. Rachel, 75. Keep guessing, guys. Kathy's out, so you got a better chance.
All right. All right. And the number is 90%.
Ooh, so that's Erica Bowman.
All right, Erica. So think about that. 90% of churches have no ministry, no strategy for reaching people with special needs.
Yep.
Yep. That's pretty sad. That's pretty sad. All right. And then I'm going to give away this GameCube. This is pretty
That's the
cool.
best.
I know it's a pretty good. It's a good size GameCube too, and you can
Sorry, Erica and Kathy, but
Sorry, but maybe somebody else in your church is on. But I'm going to give some stuff away after Traci's done. So not this, but anyway. All right. So the question is this: in 2021, whoops, sorry. My picture's in here. In 2021, the prevalence of autism disorder in the United States is estimated at 1 in how many children? 1 in how many children? And so it's a number.
Rachel said 4.
Okay.
The prevalence of the diagnosis of autism.
Mm-hmm.
You can guess more than once, right, though, Sandy?
Yeah. If they can, yep, they want to keep putting guesses in there.
Rachel's the only one taking a risk on this one.
All right. Nobody else wants to. Either maybe people are sleeping.
Well, let's hope not. Oh, wait. Erica was guessing 7, but she knows she can't guess.
Yeah. All right. Well, here's the answer. It's actually 1 in 44.
Can you believe that?
1 in 44 children has a autistic disorder. 1 in 44 children.
Yeah.
So who's that? Rachel?
So that was Rachel.
All right, Rachel, very good. Rachel, very good. All right. Now it's back to Miss Traci.
Okay.
Get away. I'll stop my share here.
Okay.
Giveaways after, so I'll disappear.
So what I did, and I took a lot of this stuff from the Johnny and Friends website, and they have a New England ministry that they're worldwide, but the New England area has a really good program, and they have good resources. And one of the things that I thought was, so I'm trying to approach it from different angles. So there's the analytical people. This is for you. If you think of these as continuums, so you have a continuum of inclusive worship and specialized worship, and then you have a continuum of inclusive teaching and specialized teaching. And then where they intersect is how you would program. So if you really want to, if you feel like you can support inclusive teaching and inclusive worship, then you're going to be fully inclusive. And if you really feel like the individuals that you have that you would want to be programming for need specific specialized programming and specific specialized worship, then you would have a totally self-contained program. And Lifeway has a curriculum for individuals with special needs. And I actually think some of the ideas in there for the activities are spot on, wonderful for anybody, that not just individuals with disabilities. So if you were going to go with a fully self-contained, you would want to pick up a curriculum and use that. If you were going to go with some kind of hybrid, well, maybe you could get somebody, maybe you're in your congregation who's an occupational therapist or a special ed teacher or whatever, that might help you figure out how to do a hybrid. And what we're going to do is go into some of the things that you would consider doing. And I wanted to be able to give you some ideas. It doesn't mean that everybody is going to need these. It doesn't mean that this is going to apply to every church. I wanted everyone to be able to walk away with one thing that they remember that they thought, oh, I could use that. So when we are talking about, back. There we go. When we're talking about including people with disabilities in our VBS. There are, and particularly in our hybrid model, but also in our self-contained model, we want to think about how we as teachers can adapt and change so that we allow access for our students with disabilities. We want to be able to serve them as well as serve everybody. And if we are doing it right, we are serving everybody. So when we're talking about adapting our teaching strategies, we want to make sure that we're involving all of our senses. And I put all 7 because as an OT, I kind of have this little thing about we don't just have 5 senses. We have these 2 extra ones. There's our muscle sense and our balance sense. And they play a big part in behavior and how individuals participate. So we want to make sure that we're offering ways to explore the lesson with our hands and with our ears and with our eyes and with our movements. We want to be able to really understand what's being shared in a variety of senses. Maybe not all at the same time, because that gets overwhelming, but to have that option. We want to make sure that we are repeating things over and over again. The more we repeat things, the better off it is that somebody is going to be able to take something in. Now, there is a statistic out there, and I am kind of having to recall it off the top of my head, but let's say it would take an individual 50 times to hear something before they learn it and understand it, a typical individual. And sometimes we call them neurotypical. But it may take almost 500 times for an individual with a disability to hear something or to experience something before they learn it. So repetition is never bad, ever. If you just repeat the same story or the same line or the same phrase or whatever, that's very good for addressing people with individual disabilities. We want to make sure that we individualize things. So if a student needs a visual support, then we want to provide that. If the student needs a separate place to sit, then we want to provide that. We want to figure out what it is that the individual child needs in order to be successful. And you know what? The best way to find that out is just talk to the parents or the grandparents, the people that child lives with. They're the ones that know. We want to make sure that we ask questions and we state things in questions so that every child has the ability to reply with the correct answer. And we all know as Sunday school teachers, the favorite answer of every Sunday school child is Jesus. That's the answer to everything, is Jesus. But when we're teaching VBS, we want to make sure that when we're trying to get a point across, we ask questions so that we can get a response. And the most important is make a plan to be flexible. Set your curriculum and set your schedule and then say, yep, if this doesn't fly, we're going to go to plan B, C, and D. And if this doesn't fly, we're going to switch it up and we're going to flop them. Just plan to be flexible and you will be successful. So that's how we prepare as adults. So here is some ways to include. I'm going to get rid. There we go. Here's some simple tips for inclusion. Now, I use the one, it was that Johnny and Friends had put out, but I also added in some of my own because of young men, young women that I've worked with. So we want our leaders. So these are the directors, the people that are involved in the promotion, the people that are involved in getting things set up. We want to have them pay attention to these simple tips. Get your information ahead of time. Sit down and have a conversation with these families about what do they want to get out of VBS? What is it that they want their child to be able to do? Do they just want their child to feel comfortable in that environment? Do they want them to just find a friend? Do they want them to learn one story? What is it that the parents want so that you have half a chance of meeting that need? the best way to get a child familiar who has difficulty with transitions is to let them see the space beforehand. So I would recommend having the child come into the space before it's decorated so that you can see the church. This is what our church looks like. This is where your class is going to be. This is where worship's going to be. This is where snack is going to be. These are the stairs. This is the bathroom. This is what the bathroom looks like. And then you might want to have them come in after it's been decorated, but before VBS starts. So, or have them come in and help decorate, be able to put up one poster so that they feel like they had some part in that. That's a great way of getting people who have difficulty with transitions to not be completely overwhelmed when they walk into VBS. We want to offer sensory corners, or I call them recovery areas. So it could be a small room, it could be a corner, somewhere where there is reduced stimuli. And I can talk with anybody individually who is interested in this, but offer things that would help ground the child, help them organize. But you also need to have a way to get them back into, they can't just spend the whole time in there, in that recovery. And we'll get to that, but this is I suggest a first then kind of board when you're working in there. We want to offer visual supports. So a schedule. So I made this schedule and it's in your notes. You don't have to use these. You are absolutely welcome to them. I just simply went on the line, took a picture that I thought represented that area, and I put it in there. So for example, if the child first has rec, and then they have snack, and then they have Bible study, so that they can follow the timeline. And when it's finished, okay, rec is finished, and I just simply have it Velcroed, and we can put it on the back. And so when you finish all of them, then you go to the next 3. And so eventually you'll have time to go home or time for crafts. You would always have a bathroom one available. So visual supports are good for kids who don't kind of attune to, I don't want to say they don't understand, they don't pay attention as well to the auditory commands of where we're going. So every 20 minutes in VBS, we're getting up and going somewhere, and I don't know what I'm doing, and so I'm going to freak out. Whereas this can help them kind of organize. And if you need to, if your individual child is is struggling, we can just simply put 2 things. So I made this board, and all this is Velcro. So first we're going to pray, and then we're going to go home. Now I can also, on the back, I did the same thing. I could use a Sharpie marker so that I can write the things that I don't have pictures for. And that's a great way of improvising. So visual supports are super, super easy to do. And I'm happy to help anybody that needs support to do that. It really doesn't matter whether it's going vertical or horizontal. There was a whole big thing on that, and just having them is important. So if you're a snack rotation leader, here are some things that you can think about for including individuals with disabilities. Consider having nut-free and gluten-free options. There's a lot of individuals, so we wouldn't necessarily call somebody who's gluten-free having a disability, but many individuals with identified disabilities also have some dietary restrictions. So the one thing that really worked well at our VBS one year is we had one mom who was particularly concerned about it, and she just went through and wrote down all the ingredients of all the things on the snack for that day and posted it at the registration section. So when the parent came in, they could look at it, or it was published, they could look at it. Yep, they can have snack today, or nope, they can't have snack today. So here's their lunch, here's their snack. And there was other families who were like, you know what, that's too much work for me. I'm just going to send a snack on my own. Just that way I know, and the child is used to it. So just to be kind of flexible. When we're thinking about crafts, plan on ways to modify, plan on ways to have things maybe pre-done. So you have the tiny little pieces finished, and they can just add those on. I thought this was an amazing example, and I hadn't thought about it, was have something that's not perfect as your sample. Have something that's not made by an adult. Maybe have 2 or 3 samples so that they don't feel like they're not making it. They're not getting it right. Have some parts that are pre-constructed. Avoid strong smelling stuff. That is a big one. Make sure your glues are glue. And if you're doing something strong smelling, you might want to have a buddy or have it go outside or something like that. And avoid latex because there's many kids with latex allergies. And the one way to make every kid feel included is to say to the individual with a disability, 1 minute, please, I'm going to help Johnny. It's okay for an individual with disabilities to have to wait. And I even put a wait icon on here so that if you needed it, you could say first wait, and then I will help you. Remember, having a disability doesn't get you to the front of the line. It just gives you the ramp to get to the line. There we go. Okay, so if you're the games instructor or leader, you might want to think about replacing competitive games with cooperative ones, something that would need a buddy. Many of the games that are offered in many of the curriculums have a variety, and you can use those or you can adapt those. We want to make sure we give simple instructions, and often a demonstration is the best way to help all kids understand. The other piece that I put into that one is if you have an individual with a disability that you think may not be able to follow the verbal directions and may need more than one demonstration, don't have them go first. Have them go at the end so they can see how the other kids are doing it, so that they might have half a chance of actually completing the task. Provide the instructions in advance. If you're trying to teach a game and you know that this is going to be important, see if you can give the instructions to the parents. Maybe they could play in the afternoon the day before, and so that the individual with the disability has some idea of what those words mean or what that task is, or and always using buddies and helpers is super important. So when you're talking about the Bible story, there's lots of things to consider. You have to consider all kinds of learning styles. You have to consider the people that are auditory learners, the people that are visual learners. We want to make sure that we're hitting the artistic ones and the natural ones. We want to make sure that we are using those phrases, sign language, or using just simple one words. Just look up the word Bible. Okay? Look up the word Jesus. Look up your key words so that you can, what it does is it not only gives a chance for the individual with maybe some processing problems to be able to process it auditorily and visually, but it slows down our communication. If I'm going to say the word Jesus, then I have to do this, and I can't say it Jesus because I can't do it that fast. Okay, it slows it down, and that often helps. Remember that the concept of salvation can be taught, and individuals with disabilities can be saved. Make that mental note in your head so that you can get over that hump. There's a lot of really good books put out by the Irresistible Church. This one is called Pathways to Belonging. And there's a lot of these little books that are available in print and electronically, and they're very good for helping get you from point A to point B in your disability ministry. What we want to do is understand there's universal design for learning. And if you are not familiar with UDL, it's basically a way to present something so everybody can benefit. So for example, there are curb cuts on the sidewalks that go, if you're going downtown Nashua, you're on a sidewalk and then you curb cut across the street, curb cut up and into another sidewalk. And those are built for people with mobility issues. So wheelchairs or walkers, okay? But it's designed universally so that everybody actually uses it and benefits from it. Okay. That's kind of what universal design is. So when we think of VBS, wouldn't it be helpful to have a picture schedule of what our group is going to do on the wall for everyone? So that it's not just the kid with the disability that has the visual schedule? That might help. If you're in music and worship, some of the things that you might key into is lights and sound. Those are going to be your hard ones. You're going to have to kind of gauge it, whether they need it peppier or they need it softer. They need the lights up. Avoid some of the flashing lights because sometimes those can stimulate somebody who might have a seizure disorder. Maybe the individual is nonverbal or they're minimally verbal or they don't understand the words of the song and they can't learn the song. Offer them some streamers and some flags that they can wave around and participate. That's worship. It doesn't mean that you have to sing every word for word. You can still worship by waving and enjoying yourself. That's what we want. And I know many kids that just love having the headphones and they're really super cheap. I think they're like $15 at Home Depot. So we don't have to go and get the noise canceling headphones for $100. You can just simply get the black or orange ones you can just put on. And it's a great way to kind of mute some of the sound that may be too loud, but we need it that loud for the rest of the group. Or offer the option to be in the back of the room so that they can see what's going on, but they don't have to be involved in it or afraid of somebody touching them. Okay, so I've talked quite a bit and I know I want to have time for questions and answers. And I know that Sandy has more things to give away, but I put in the things, here are some references. Here are some people and some organizations that you can take a look at. I've included my email address and the email was at the beginning of this as well. Here's some materials, the Irresistible Church series that I showed you. The Baptist Churches of New England have put out some short takes on how to be flexible. So if you're planning to be flexible, here's some ways to do that. The Special Friends Leader Guide, if you're using the Lifeway curriculum, they have a whole book on this. And then I did put a link for kind of the 3 basic principles of UDL. And again, please use your resources. Pick a place that you would like to start. Don't try to take it all in at once. Don't become overwhelmed. Pick one thing you want to try and try it. And remember that you have to show the light of Christ. Jesus will show you the way and the Holy Spirit does the work. You don't have to do it all. Lean on him. I'm going to stop sharing.
All right. So if you have questions, put those in the chat. And so Traci, you had mentioned about making like a recovery area or a place. Would you also suggest, like in the classroom, having like a box that might be helpful?
A quiet corner is good. Sometimes it depends on your space. Using a refrigerator box or a dishwasher box makes a great tent. You could even use one of those children's pop-up tents. Sometimes you can just simply have a bean bag in a corner with a fidget box. And so some items that the individual can go and just pick out the things that seem to work for them. Can be easily cleaned and easily picked up and moved. So your recovery areas don't necessarily have to be an entire room, and it doesn't have to have swings and ball pits and things like that. And it doesn't have to be anything. It can be whatever meets your needs within the classroom or individually.
Right. And is it the Irresistible Church? Is that what you were talking about? Is that what somebody asked? Irresistible, and then a question.
Sorry. Irresistible Church Series.
Yep.
If you contact Johnny and Friends, you will get the
Yeah, if you
certainly
go,
be able to.
yeah, if you go onto their website,
Yeah,
and they're pretty affordable. And I'm not
there's
sure
probably about 7 of these. Not all pathways to belonging. There's like different.
they're different. Yeah,
It's
they
a
have a
whole
whole
series.
series.
Yeah,
Yeah, so you might want to look at that. Yep,
yeah,
those are good stuff to have. And if you're a director and again wanting to educate your leaders and your volunteers, these are great resources.
yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. And
Was
then
there an email of notes sent out as you had an arrow pointing up on the screen? Oh,
what
what'd
I
you call
sent
it?
out earlier tonight, or this afternoon, about 4 o'clock or so, I sent out the listening sheet to go with this, and then I'll resend that with any additional notes because I didn't have the references, but I'm going to come up with a resource sheet based on this conference. So
Oh, okay.
be watching for that early next week, and I'll be emailing you all just to give you the link to the webinar, but also to that that resource sheet as well. So if you had the listening sheet, it didn't have everything filled in, but when I come back with the resource sheet, you'll have all the information Traci talked about in that. Hopefully that's helpful. Well, we do want to stay in touch. We hope that you'll utilize our email there